Good morning, everybody. And today we're going to be focusing on listening. And the intention is we're listening for harmony today. And we're going to listen to all different layers. And it's perfect, Cheryl, what you just shared a little while ago about the different aspects of sound and of the natural world, because that's exactly what we're going to be following here to some regard. Many years ago, Chief Jake Swamp shared with the school I used to work for the Thanksgiving address that they did with the Mohawk Nation. And he sort of had this process that he went through, making sure that they acknowledged all aspects of nature. So today we're going to go, and he shared that with us, kind of free of take this and use it as you will. Don't do exactly what I did, but, but use it as you will. And so it's not a Thanksgiving address per se today, but we're just going to be acknowledging these different aspects of nature. So as you sit there today, let's just get ourselves grounded. So go ahead and feel your feet on the earth and connect yourself to your place for a moment. It's great. I'm just noticing your body in relationship to your environment right now. Just feeling if there's any wind around you or any breath. Feel the air as it moves past you, even if it's very subtle, and it may be for some of you, it may be quite not subtle for others, but if it's subtle, just notice where it's touching your skin right now. And just notice the rhythm of the breath of the earth right now in relationship to the rhythm of your own breath. And as we're focusing on our breath, go ahead and on your next exhale, just blow all the air out completely. Take a nice deep inhale through your nose, feeling your chest, lungs, just really expanding your front body, your chest, and then letting it go. Doing something again, allowing your breath to completely leave your body. And then fully inhaling. As you feel your lungs, allow it to travel through the rest of your body, and on your exhale, it can leave through your feet and send it down to the earth. And then take another nice deep breath in, this time from your feet all the way up. Let it fill your legs, your knees, your chest, all the way up to the crown of your head, and then let it go. And just tapping back in again to the breath of the earth, noticing if there's a wind or a gentle breeze, and just seeing the rhythm of your own breath and the rhythm of the earth in this moment. Beautiful. So just notice your posture now, how you're sitting, or for me, standing. And just become tapped into how you're sitting, noticing if, and don't change it just yet, because it's really good to become connected to how we naturally sit. Just noticing if you're leaning forward a little bit, maybe you're leaning backwards, or maybe you're just perfectly aligned. And once you've noticed that and taken stock, then you can go ahead and align yourself. Maybe sit a bit more upright, let your belly stretch out a little bit. Stretch the crown of your head, the back of your head up to the earth. Great. And then now we're going to look off into the distance. And for those of you who've been practicing this for a while with me, you know that we're going to be getting into owl eyes right now. So for those of you who this is new to, what you can imagine, you can watch me for a moment. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look off in the distance, finding a point to look at. And sometimes what I do is I have people stretch their arms out wide as you're looking forward, and you start to wiggle your fingers and move them slowly forward. And you stop where you can see both of your fingers wiggling, but your eyes are still looking forward. And then you can drop your hands, and that's the expanse of your vision. Often we only use a small portion of that, but today we're going to work on expanding that. So just let yourself stay in this expanded vision or this owl eyes for the next moment or two, and just start to see what you pick up and what you're perceiving. Also start to notice if anything shifts within your body when you go into owl eyes. Good work. So we'll be coming back to this a lot today. We'll be working in owl eyes often. And whether or not I remember to remind you to go into owl eyes just for your own self, if, maybe you'll catch a glimpse of something as we're sitting here today, and feel free to follow that. Use your binoculars if you want to. But otherwise, just let yourself go back into owl eyes, noticing the subtle movements and shapes that are all around us. It's a really important skill to have for birding, for those bird lovers amongst us, because it will help you pick up on the subtle movements of the birds, especially those hard to find ones. So now we're going to shift our attention and our awareness to our ears. And we'll spend the rest of our practice attending to our ears and the sounds that we're hearing. And so, again, just reminding yourself to have a calm breath, just nice rhythmic breathing, and staying in owl eyes as much as possible. And so we're going to begin today. Like I said before, we're listening for the layers in the earth, the layers in the world around us. And so I'll be giving you cues for what to listen for, and then you can just allow yourself to be there, be present with those sounds, and listen for the harmony in them. So it's perfect that there's a little kiddo talking right now, because we're going to start with the human sounds. So I'd like you to listen in your environment for the human sounds, whatever that ends up being. So you might have to stretch your ears far, and others might not have to stretch that far for listening for human sounds or human-made sounds. And just listening for the harmony within those. So we'll spend the next couple of minutes in silence, allowing you just to be listening for the human-made sounds. And even though we're listening for the different layers of sound today, as we focus on one particular layer, listen for the layers within that. So if you start to key in on one particular human sound, for instance, right now, then start to stretch your ears and expand and see if you can seek out other types of human-made sound. Good job. So now we're going to add one more layer onto that, and you're welcome to just sort of allow that first layer to drop away from your awareness. It'll be a lot to hold all of these all at once. And this is an important practice also for honing your birding skills, because learning to pick out the distinctions, the subtleties amongst the bird sounds is really important. And so this practice hones that skill for us. And so now we're going to be focusing on the mammal world. So listening for any mammal, whether it's cats or dogs, fox, deer, whatever it might be, what any kind of mammal sound that's in your area. And if you're like, oh, there's no mammals right now, that's okay. Just stretch your ears and just see. Just see if there might be. Just try to experience that for yourself. Okay, good work. So now we're going to shift our listening awareness over to the avian world, so our bird friends. And so listening for the various layers of bird sounds that are out there today, the ones that are near, the ones that are far, high, low, all different layers. Nice work, everybody. So now we're going to listen for the layer of the plant life. So these are the low-growing plants, the flowering plants, maybe the fruiting shrubs. So we just think of low-growing plants right now, listening for the sounds that low-growing plants are making in this moment. Nice. All right, and now we can shift our awareness up to the taller plants, so the trees. So sending your awareness both near and far, exploring the different sounds that the trees are making right now. And see if you can let yourself listen to, like, some of you, this may be a little bit more challenging for if you have no wind near you, but those of you who might be a little bit windier, see if you can listen for the different trees. So the sound that this one particular tree has compared to that particular tree. Okay, nice job on that one. So now we're going to shift to the creepy crawlies, as Jake used to call them, so the insect world. And for those of you, as you're listening and exploring the sounds, if for some reason you don't have or you're not able to hear anyone from that particular group, then just imagine that your ears are like little children just exploring the landscape, like in a really playful kind of a way. So let yourself really get in there, get down deep, get up high, wherever you need to go to listen for those sounds. So insects right now. Beautiful. And now for our last category, we're going to allow ourselves to listen to the other layer of the world, the unseen world. So, however you want to listen in that regard, we'll be listening to the unseen world right now, and maybe anything else that we forgot to listen for. All right, good work, everybody. So take the next moment or two to offer a blessing or gratitude to those ones that you connected with in some way today. Beautiful. So for those who need to head out, you're welcome to go. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay for our chat at the end, where we usually talk about what happened and other people's experiences and bird stories. So, and during this time, it's really nice to see your faces. So if you have turned your monitor off, it would be lovely to see you. Although if you are in a position where you can't do that, that's totally fine too. So would anyone like to begin and share their experience from today's session? What that was like to listen to the different layers of sound out there? You can just go ahead and raise your hand. Yeah, I saw Anne first and then Gabrielle after that.
Um, when we were listening to the bird sounds, and maybe go back to, then you said mammals, and the children are the mammals that you have there, and I compare the, you've got children excited about something and parents talking. Well, it's all the birds that are yelling. You can kind of hear that low chirping sound of birds in nests, and the parents yelling because I'm here, and it was like everybody's at a picnic today, and they're looking, the parents are looking out after the children, and the children are yelling. And so I compared the bird songs to the mammal songs. So that's what I got.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Thanks for that. All right, Gabrielle.
Well, what really came out for me today was the unseen. Started with the wind, and we're still in May gray here in California, and so there's very little wind. But I could see my trees in front of me just slightly moving, but I couldn't hear it. And then this hummingbird came by, and I heard the sound of her wings, and it was like, oh, well, that's kind of like wind, you know. And then when we were listening for birds, and there's lots of them, I don't see them, but I can hear them. And I noticed there was a moment when the sun was kind of trying to come through, and the bird song just got louder. And I just thought, wow, they're really feeling it. That was pretty amazing. And the other unseen was the insects. And I kind of went into the earth and listened for earthworms. And then I listened, we've been having a lot of swallowtail butterflies. So I was listening for them. And again, I couldn't see them or hear them, but it was very magical to imagine what they sounded like. So it was a lot of really interesting, unseen, but heard or not heard.
Yeah, it sounds that way. Wow. Thanks for sharing and also for going to those deeper places, I think yeah, that's a personal journey in that regard and um but it sounds
Well,
like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, one thing I wanted to share is I started teaching a class for children online on the power of dream animals. And one of the kids, they're like junior high school kids. And one of the kids had a waking dream of a bald eagle. And so we were kind of diving into the bald eagle and the significance. And we got talking about the Hopis and how an eagle had to do with helping you send your prayers up. And so then at the end, the children do artwork, and this little girl did a picture of the bald eagle and then with a communication tower. And I said, oh, that's so interesting. Was that in your dream? And she said, no, that's to symbolize the communication that the bald eagle facilitates with the heavens. I mean, it was so profound.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Gabrielle. Yeah. And wow, congratulations on that class for the kiddos. I bet they're getting a lot out of that. So, yeah, thank you for
Yeah. And I'm getting a lot out of it. So.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure. All right. Would someone else like to share their experience from this morning? Make sure I can see everybody. Yeah, go for it, Julia.
Well, just as we started listening for sounds, a muscle car started around the corner, and I thought, "Oh, great! This is." But you know, he got it going for a while and then drove by, so he was on, and that's a young man about college age who's living at home and during law school or something. Anyway, he was, and then there were several mowers going on. There's another one next door started up. And I recall when I was shopping for my electric lawnmower, there was a man in this shop and he said, oh, electric mower, not enough power, not enough power. And so I've always joked that gasoline engines put off testosterone fumes. But I thought it was kind of interesting how the sounds that humans make are communicating something about them. A little later on, a young man, oh, probably middle school age, on his bike went by, and there was the sound of the bicycle tire on the street, totally different, you know, from the muscle car and so on. I got to thinking, well, what do my sounds, you know, have to say? What does my electric mower have to say to people? So, but then, of course, when things don't, that you ask us to listen for or look for, don't necessarily appear, I think of other things. But this morning I was working in the front in the flower bed, probably bent over pulling weeds, and I hear, and it told me a dog was walking by, and so of course I had to look, and it was a neighbor walking the dog by, you know. But other times someone else has mentioned hummingbird, you know, again, I'm bent over, you know, not looking, and I'll hear a hummingbird come by. And in August, I love it. Oh, it's so hot here, and lantanas are blooming, and you know, lots of stuff is blooming, but it's just miserable outside. And the birds are fairly quiet in August, relatively. And the air is just alive with the buzz of insects, bees, and all kinds of things on the flowers, you know. And so this morning has kind of brought all that together for me. And I found, yeah, I think I've mentioned the flicker before that's pounding on my gutter. It makes this noise, and people say, what is that? What is it? You know, I tell I saw the flicker go into a hole, and I found where the nest was. And I think this was a female, I think, just made a little sound. And I was looking, and finally I see her going into, you know, caught the movement and going into the hole. And I noticed with the red-shouldered hawks, they also make a sound, you know, their cry as they're coming toward the nest to feed the young ones. And I'm wondering if this is a common thing. Are they making a sound to alert them that it's, you know, friendly? I'm coming in with food. You know, I'm not to be worried about. But then I thought, well, wouldn't they want to be quiet and not draw attention to the babies in the nest? So I don't know the answer to that, but I've noticed that with both the flicker and the red-shouldered hawk, that they give a call before they come in with food.
Hmm. Wow, I love all your ponderings, Julia, and like how much can happen in just this short little time that we're together, like where our minds can travel to and all the things that we can learn or wonder about. And yeah, it's really inspiring to hear all of your journeys, like each one of you, and like where your minds go when we're sitting here and all we're doing is just sitting still. But we go to so many places. It's really, really fascinating. So thanks for taking us on your journey this morning with you. Did I see somebody else's hand up? Yeah, Julie, Linda, sorry, Linda, please, and then Joy. Oh,
There you go. Okay, got it. Well, it's quite windy here. I'm up in Montana and it's quite windy here, which is really cool. And I really enjoyed listening to the different trees, trying to ferret out the different sounds. And there's a couple of aspen here, and those were the ones I noticed the most, the Quakies. I just love them. They're always chatting, and I always imagine them chatting. And then there's a maple tree that I could hear, and it was fairly loud. It's a red maple. Um, and then there's the conifer trees, the big ponderosa pines and Doug firs, and they're very quiet when the wind goes through. The only thing I can hear is branches creaking, but I don't hear the wind actually going through the needles. And I've thought about that. If in the past I've noticed it, and I don't. Sometimes I have to look out my window to see if the wind is blowing, is moving the ponderosas to know that it's blowing, and during the night. But anyway, but I always imagine, well, I've started imagining this. I guess it's imagination, but I like to think that there's some truth to it, that the winds are Mother Nature just carrying a message of love and care throughout the world, and that the winds that go through here go through all the other parts of the world and the country. And so I thought it would be fun to write like a little thing for maybe for kids about the journeys of the wind going from place to place all over the world. But anyway, that's where my mind went today.
yes, that's such a beautiful image, and I think about that. I had an experience once a long time ago where I don't know how it came to me, but I realized that like the breath I was taking in that moment was the same breath at some point that like a lion in Africa had breathed, and I was like,
That's
wow,
true.
like
Yeah.
we're connected to everything, and just how cool that is. So
Yes.
yeah, thank you for that. And it's interesting you mentioned the ponderosa sound because I remember years ago when I lived in no, this was Eastern Washington. I lived in both Western and Eastern, but when I was in Eastern Washington, it was an all ponderosa pine forest. It's when I was living in the yurt. And so you could hear everything outside, no matter whether you were inside or outside. um, and and there was a sound, but we got so used to it. It was a very subtle sound because it was an all pine forest. I mean, there was some fir, but not much. It was mostly all pine. And I remember my dad came to visit me once there, and we had 2 years actually. He stayed in 1 year, just like an adventure for him. But when he first got there, he's like, "Is there like a river nearby?" Or like, he's like, "Where's the rushing water?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And then I finally realized I was like, "Oh, he's hearing the wind in the ponderosas." And it was a gusty day, it wasn't just like a quiet
Yeah.
day, but
Yeah.
we'd gotten so used to it. And that's the only sound, because again, like there wasn't a large diversity of trees. That's all we were hearing was the wind in the ponderosas. And I was like, oh, I guess if I hadn't gotten used to the sound and I just started to hear it for the first time, I might think that too. And that was just interesting to like just to see where his brain took him when he heard the sound of ponderosas, which he had never had experience with before.
Yeah. Huh,
Yeah.
I'll have to listen more closely. Maybe the there is a sound, and I'm so used to it because there's so many ponderosas, or maybe it's drowned out by the aspen, waking aspen. I don't
Right,
know.
right. Yeah, it totally could. I wonder about that. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Cool.
Thanks, Linda. So
You
beautiful.
bet. Thank you.
Yeah. Joy, go for it.
It's about the wind here too today. It's very windy and pouring rain also. But it's beautiful to be outside in it. And we've got quite a variety of different trees here. And I was trying to, there go my wind chimes, sorry. trying to distinguish them, but it's not easy. However, I did notice that my one of the tallest one that's close by here is a maple, and so the wind starts through the maple and then spreads to the other trees as the huge gusts come by. And I was thinking it's like an orchestra, you know, starting with one of the instruments and then going through, as picking up the other instruments as it goes. And so I'm trying to get more of the, as you suggested, finding the different sounds, but they all seem to blend together so beautifully. And that was really what I got out of it this morning. So thank you, Kristi. It's very good.
Absolutely, Joy. You're very welcome. Yeah, I know it's one of those things where, and if we had more time, probably if I was able to be settled initially, what I would have had you guys do is just allow, and you could do this when we close. You can just spend a moment and just let everything, let all the sounds just come in without trying to pick anything apart, because that is the really beautiful part about when we do these sits, that we can just allow ourselves to absorb the symphony. You know, part of the lesson and part of the teaching is to like really try to discern the different sounds, you know, like you would if you're listening to a symphony. You might go and be like, oh, I can hear the cello, I can hear the violin, and like, oh, there's this over there and that. But then sometimes when you hear a symphony, you just want to hear the symphony, like all of it together as the music, you know. So yeah, I'll encourage you all to do that when we close. I didn't have time to do that today during the sit, so make sure you take a moment to just let it all soak in before you go off to do whatever you're going to do next. Yeah. Anyone else want to share their story from this morning? Everyone good? All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for coming. It's so good to see all your faces. And yeah, well, I don't think we have a holiday next week, so we're good to go. I always appreciate when you guys remind me of the holidays, and like this one, it's nice to do it on a holiday sometimes when it's, you know, people don't have lots of plans. So, because we get to see more folks. So good to see everybody, and have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next time. All right.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Kristi.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take care.